Newton Foundation's Little 500, the world's greatest college weekend, is brought to you by Bank One, where you can get it all and still deduct interest with Equity Money Service.
Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to the campus of Indiana University here in Bloomington, Indiana. We are here at Armstrong Stadium to bring you the 1987 Indiana University Little 500. It is the 37th time that we have been here on a Saturday afternoon to run this race, and along with me again today to bring you coverage of the events surrounding the race, Max Skirvin, who will be in the booth with us, Rich Green, who's been down on the infield and around the campus all month long to bring us some of the pageantry. Max, it looks like we've got an excellent day for a race today.
Doug, I can't remember it being anything better than this. It ought to be great for the riders. It ought to be great for the fans. And with the teams we have in there, it ought to be a really great race.
We had a race record set last year. Do you think we can do that again this year?
I think it's going to be awfully close.
Rich, this month of April culminates with the Little 500 this afternoon, but it's been a month full of events on campus.
And we're going to be sharing those with you. The Mini 500, the Missing Out bicycle race, Cream and Crimson football, the Big Red Relay. We'll see it all here this afternoon.
And we'll be back to bring it all to you a little bit later on. First off, though, let's take a look. We showed you at the top of the show how important an exchange can be. Well, we've done a little work on that, and we're going to emphasize to you a little bit more how important things are as far as training and exchanging and what the riders will be doing today. Chris Baggett has been with some of the riders this past month.
On the windy, hilly roads of Monroe County. That's where the Sigma Alpha Epsilon bikers have spent months training for today's race. These bikers began practicing together as a team back in December, but individually they, like the others in the Little 500, have been practicing on their own for several years. This is where conditioning for the 200-lap, 50-mile race begins. To build endurance, Little 500 bikers ride some 200 miles a week. Then the training moves here to Bill Armstrong Stadium.
What we try to work on is riding out front in the pack, and in this pack you get very good riders, and you also get some riders that aren't quite as experienced. And so what you want to do, you want to try to stay out in front of the pack and try to avoid the wrecks.
The team spend many hours working on the exchange, one of the unique and potentially dangerous aspects of the Little 500.
We started practicing exchanges over spring break and our training down in Florida, and basically what we do is we just try to teach the younger riders the exchange technique, and then we'll start off slower, to slower speed, and then we'll just work up to it, and then we use different guys taking and giving the bike. So really it's practice, 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 and that's the best way to assure a good exchange.
At qualifications, the faster the exchange, the better the overall time. However, in the race, the priority shifts.
In the race, exchanges don't need to be extremely fast. They just need to be efficient. And I think that's what's important in the race. As long as you have a good medium speed exchange in the race, you're going to be okay.
A bad exchange could mean the race, I suppose, could it?
Yeah, that's for sure. As it did in last year's race with the AEPI team.
This is Chris Baggett. Now back to Doug Rafferty and Max Skirvin for more of the 1987 Little 500.
We are just about set for the start of the 1987 Little 500. We'll be back with that in pre-race ceremonies. The skydivers landing in the infield.
It's always a big occasion. A lot of happy things happen. It fires up the crowd, and we're about ready for this race now.
And they haven't minted enough money to get me to do that. Max, let's take a look at the starting lineup as the riders are warming up right now and run down row by row the lineup this year. All right,
Doug, first row, Sigma Alpha Epsilon on the pole. Team number 2, Alpha Tau Omega, and on the outside, the posers.
In the second row, it's Delta Tau Delta in position number 4. Team number 5 this year, the Cutters, who won last year's race, and team number 6, Dodds House.
And in team number 3, row number 3, team number 7, Phi Gamma Delta. In the inside, Phi Kappa Alpha, and the joint venture is the team on the outside.
Go to row number 11. Phi Kappa Psi is on the inside position in position 10. Row 4, number 11, Evan Scholars, along with Sigma Phi Epsilon in position 12.
And in the next row, the Theta Chi are on the inside. Number 14, Kappa Sigs in the middle, and on the outside, Phi Delta Theta.
Row 6, we take a look. Sigma Pi, the team called Americana, and team number 18, Beach Riders.
And in the next row, the Acacia on the inside, team number 19. In the middle of that row, team number 20, Sigma Alpha Mu. And on the outside, number 21, Cinzano.
In the 8th row, it's a team called Totano. That's an independent team. Team number 23, Kappa Delta Rho, and on the outside, number 24, Collins Gretas.
In the next row, number 25 team, Sigma Nu. Number 26 in the middle, Zeta Beta Tau. And in team number 27 on the outside, Parks House.
Right Quad, Delta Chi, and Chi Phi are the teams in row 10.
And rounding out the field, on the inside, Reed Curry 5, the Visitors, and Flying High.
2:19.73. That was the time in minutes that it took to win the pole this year. You see the pace of the bicycles picking up. We are on the pace lap. We anticipate getting a green flag as we come around this time.
We're looking right now, however, at Steve Alford and Todd Meyer, a couple of celebrities here who were taken around the track just before this pace lap.
And celebrities they are indeed from the 1987 championship basketball team. The teams come through turn number 3, turn number 4. The pace car beginning to pull away now. We look for the green flag. Chappie Blackwell has it, throws it. We are racing. Team number 2, Alpha Tau Omega, leads them into turn number 1. Max, the pack very well spread out as it moves through that first turn. We always talk about at the start of the race, the adrenaline flowing. These are when we get our fastest laps in the race, but everybody's very safely through, and the whole pack is very well strung out at this point.
Much more so than we normally see, I think, Doug, the way they're strung out. The ATOs are continuing to leave the pack, and they're going to be the number 1 team as they come across the start-finish line.
They'll be followed by team number 1 and team number 3 and team number 4. So that is your order as we complete the first lap of this 37th annual Indiana University Little 500.
And we were talking earlier to the Acacia coach who said he wanted to move up to the outside, and he certainly got that job done. He's moved from 19th to about 5 or 6 on the outside over there as they're jockeying now for position, and some changes are occurring.
You see the pack starting to form up and bunch up a little tighter now as it goes through the 3rd and 4th turns at what is, I would guess, the east end of the stadium. We got a fairly brisk wind today, but other than that, an absolutely perfect day for bike riding. Team 15 leads them across that time, Max. That's Phi Delta Theta.
They are. They were the pole team in '86, finished 4th last year.
An excellent crowd again on hand here today. A jam-packed Armstrong Stadium. We saw a record crowd last year, Max, and it looks like we might exceed that again this year.
It's going to be awfully close. There appears to be no empty seats. People are standing around the track as we come back around again, and it looks as if Phi Delta Theta is going to continue to hold that lead through this lap.
The color schemes on the jerseys for the riders this year are a little bit different. We used to have a tougher time. We've got a pretty easy time of it this year. Team 15, Phi Delta Theta leads them across. Team number 7 moving up on the inside. That is Phi Gamma Delta, the Fijis as they call themselves.
The SAEs, the pole team, content just to lay back in about 2nd or 3rd place, not getting in a particular hurry. That appears to be, they're on the far side, but that appears to be the Cutters team moving out now, the team in yellow.
At this point in the race, Max, it's really more important to just maintain good position and keep your pace up and not get back where there's a wreck rather than trying to really sprint out to any kind of a lead, isn't it?
That appears to be the case most of the teams who win with any consistency, and it is the Cutters and the Acacias going 1-2 as they cross the start-finish line on that lap.
A lot of people, in talking with them this past week, felt that the Cutters team, which won last year, was the team to beat again this year. They've got a veteran lineup.
They have very experienced. They won not only last year, but they won in '84 with many of these same riders.
Teams moving through turn number 3 into turn number 4 as they identify the way we run around this track. Head down for the start-finish line. They will have completed 5 laps when we cross the point. Team number 2, Alpha Tau Omega, leading them across the start-finish line. SAE right alongside them.
As are the Cutters, just falling in just right behind. Well bunched now. All 33 teams are within a second or 2 of each other.
We had a good look as the teams went into turn number 1 that time, Max. How much wider this track is than what it used to be several years ago at the old 10th Street Stadium, and that's probably been a contributing factor in the competitiveness of these races through the years.
Well, it's certainly aided the speed, and it's aided the safety. They can now come across, as they're doing right now, 4 abreast. I've seen them come even more than that, but the leaders are 4 abreast right now as the Cutters move just across, and moving all the way up, Zeta Beta Tau now has moved into 2nd place.
Team number 26 right up front, and that's where the good riders, the knowledgeable riders, know they have to be in order to stay out of trouble. Of course, that's a position you also have to keep for 200 laps if you want to stay in that sort of shape.
Now we're seeing an awful lot of jamming together over there. Of course, as they go down that back straight, they'll be going into whatever wind there is here this afternoon, and it is a sizable breeze blowing.
We've also talked, too, this week that the competitiveness, the skill of the riders is improving every year. It seems like more and more people are cycling all the time. Team number 1, SAE.
Would guess that they're moving for an exchange, and they are. They're moving out. They have someone ready, so we have our first exchange occurring of the afternoon, the SAE, the pole team, and here it is.
Well, as you saw at the top of the show, and we will emphasize again during the course of the broadcast, exchanges are very, very important. It's important to make a good one. You see, this time the SAEs made that exchange. They didn't have that much of a burn on it, and now they're in the back. Now we've got a wreck in turn number 3. A number of bikes are down, most of them from the rear end of that pack. Now, SAE avoided it. They caught up. Let's take a look. We can identify some of the teams maybe as they come around. It looks like all the bicycles are back in rideable condition with the exception of one. You see a rider, and I can't get a number on him yet, Max. He's running to his pit.
Team number 32 coming
They
up
will
right
make a
now.
bicycle exchange. There they go. They are back on.
That's the visitors. There were 7 teams involved. Make that team number 22 rather than 32. Bacano was the team that had to carry their bike around.
All right, take one more look at it as we show the instant replay, and we'll show you how things transgressed in that accident that occurred in turn number 3.
It all started in the back, as you suggested, Doug, and down they went. Eventually, 7 of them were involved.
That's why good riders will tell you we got to stay up front. We got to be up in the head of the pack and avoid the accidents, because when you do that, then you're into a makeup game very quickly. We've completed 9 laps now. It will be 10 when we come around. One rider on the ground, Max. Injuries do occur in this race.
That is the injury that occurred in the corner. That's a shot taken down in the number 3 turn is where that occurred. We could probably pick up some of these riders as they come around, Doug. The ones who are now in the back of the pack probably were either involved in it or were hindered by it, and they're starting to come by now our start-finish line. Team number 33 is coming by. Team number 16, that was the Sigma Pi's. Here comes team number 8, Pi Kappa Alpha. Team 22, we mentioned. Team 18, the Beach Riders. 11, Evans Scholars must have been affected, and 6, is that 6? Dodd's House.
So Dodd's House, that's
those
right.
were some of the teams that were involved in that wreck, I'm sure.
10 laps complete. We log lap number 11 as the riders move by the start-finish line. You know, as we told you, there are a lot of events that make this Little 500 such a very special time on campus here at Indiana University. One of them took place yesterday morning over on the golf course. I saw you there, Max. We've had a lot of golf professionals here over the years associated with the tournament. One of them who came this year, a Hoosier, Fuzzy Zeller. We caught up with him over at the IU golf course and had a few moments to chat with him.
First of all, Fuzzy, it's the first time that I recall you being here for the Little 500 and the events on the IU campus this weekend. What have you seen so far? How do you like being here for?
Well, I got a chance to drive around the track this morning.
Did you?
Sure. We went around and looked at the signs that they were putting around the track. Did it in the van. I didn't do it on a bicycle. I did it in the van.
Have you ever seen the bicycle race?
No, I've never been in town for it. You know, it's one of those things. It's kind of a bad time of year for me. I'm sort of busy usually, but I took this week off. You know, just having to be available. And Ned asked me a couple months ago if I was available, and I said yes.
As far as the tour is going, first of all, you know, you've got a big following here at Indiana, of course. How's your back? How are you feeling? How's your physical condition this year?
Well, physical condition's doing fine. My putter's sick. I'd much rather have the back pain, I'll be honest with you. I can cope with that. I can't cope with the damn putter that's not working properly. I don't know. I'm doing very well.
You know, we talk a lot. We've seen a lot here with Bob Knight and his basketball team and how the coach.
Oh, that's right. He does. He is from up here, isn't he?
Yeah, the guy hangs around here a little
Yeah.
bit. But he emphasizes concentration. That's something very important in your sport.
Concentration is. You know, when you're going well, it seems like you just, no matter what happens, you don't even have to yell for a yardage from your caddy. Just pull a club. You know what's happening. And when you're going kind of bad, I mean, it's like you got 50 different things going through your mind. Oh, my God, the wind's got me, or the lie of the ball is... it's crazy, the way your mind works. It is 90% mental out there.
Fuzzy, you got a lot of people around here waiting to see you do some of your things out here with the golf clubs and so forth.
All I'm going to do is just BS with the people. I mean, we're going to have fun at it. I hope I get to, you know, I had a little chip shot out on the green on the golf course just a while ago, and I sculled it. So I'm going to try. That's the first shot I'm going to try again. You know, you try until you get it right.
Knowing that you did that makes me feel a lot better.
Hey, I am human.
Fuzzy, thanks for talking to us
Thank
today.
you very much.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Fuzzy Zeller, very much a gentleman of the game, and we certainly enjoyed visiting with him. He put on a clinic yesterday, Max, that you and I got to see a little bit of.
Well, I tell you, he is a great guy. He is so funny, just naturally funny, that you just have to enjoy him. And, of course, with the skill he has, it's a great pair.
Everybody stays loose when they're around Fuzzy on the tour, and we certainly wish him the best of success the rest of the year. He says one of his goals this year is to win the British Open. It's one he's never won. Well, we have logged in 15 completed laps here at the Indiana University Little 500. We will continue with our coverage of the 37th race after we pause for these words.
That you guys started out all those many years ago.
Well, it's been a joy to watch it develop, and we had no idea that it would reach this proportion. However, with the great student leaders that we've had over the years and the enthusiasm of Indiana University students about life and about the university, we shouldn't have been surprised.
This isn't just fun and games here.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. This is one thing that I'm glad you brought up to me. At a state university as complex and as large as we are here at Indiana, we had to have a way to present ourselves that for the long range to have private gifts to the university. And we hope through this particular event, and which it's been proven, because right now in the midst of the campaign for Indiana, the leaders of today that are helping this great campaign are former members of this program. And, you know, when you enroll at a private school, immediately they can talk to you about giving. So we hope that this is a way that for years to come, that we'll always have these great leaders to help us out in the field.
Do you have any idea how many students have benefited from scholarships out of this program?
Well, I should have that in my mind.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I apologize. But
it's thousands and thousands.
But just think, we have had, in the 37 years, workers that we've had will number close to 20,000 students that have worked on the event. And then take the riders. 33 teams, multiply that by 6 times 37. There's the number that participated in that. So it all comes out to a great number and a proud figure.
And you should be proud of this race as it has developed over 37 years. Bill Armstrong, it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Well, it's the other way. Thanks to you very much. Thank you so much.
Good to see Bill Armstrong here once again. We've completed 109 laps now. Let's run down the official 100-lap standings here, Max.
All right, team number 17 was leading at 100 laps. That's Americana. Team number 21, Cinzano, was in second place. Team number 7, Phi Gamma Delta, was in third. And team number 12, Sigma Phi Epsilon, was in fourth. Team number 13, the Theta Chi's, were in fifth. The SAEs were in sixth place. Team number 1. Team number 15, the Phi Delta Theta, was next in seventh. Team number 5, the Cutters, were in 8th, and in 9th was Joint Venture, ATOs were in 9th, and team number 29, Delta Chi, was in 10th. That was at the 1/2 mark of this race.
We will just point out to you some statistics. The farthest back a team has ever come to win in this race is from 14th place. That has happened 3 times. The last team to do it was the Cutters. They were 14th last year when they won. Nobody has ever come from farther back to win the race. We do have, though, team 29, who is up there flirting with the lead off and on. Team number 19, Acacia. So we've got several teams that have come from way back to get up front, and it's a very, very competitive race on a beautiful sunny Saturday afternoon in Bloomington, Indiana. We'll be back with more of the 1987 Little 500 in just a moment. "148 laps are complete in this year's Little 500. Doug Rafferty and Max Skirvin along with you today to bring you the highlights. And Max, back on lap, let's take a look at my notes, lap 134. There's something that we really ought to show the folks. Team tried a strategy. Sigma Alpha Mu, team number 20. Now, they made a break, which teams do when they're going to exchange, and nobody went with them.
They were about nearly a 1/2 lap lead at this point, and it looked as if they were trying to get a complete lap on the field, and they had a good shot at it.
Now, that was not a great classic exchange, but it works, and they maintained a 1/2 to a 1/3 lap lead over the pack for about 10 laps. riders riding 2 lap sets, putting a new rider on, and kept that lead, then gave it up for, apparently they couldn't complete it. Apparently they were trying to lap the pack and just couldn't get the job done and decided to fall back in.
They made about 3 exchanges, I think, every 2 laps to build up that lead, and then just voluntarily dropped back in as the rider just looked back. And now we're picking it up live here, as you see, and again repeating what we've said all afternoon long and what we've said pretty much at this race since it's been held here. There are 15 teams right now on the same lap, and that's the same pattern that we've seen every year.
Phi Delta Theta and Acacia led them across the line that time. Phi Delta Theta making an exchange, and Acacia continues to lead them through this 3rd and 4th turn as they come around to complete lap 151. Last night at Assembly Hall here on the Bloomington campus, a tremendous event. It's been a part of it. It's the 2nd oldest event in this little 500 program. That's the Mini 5. And our Chris Baggett was on hand to cover the action last night.
The three-wheelers took to the center stage here at Assembly Hall with 63 teams of 4, matching their skills on the 138-foot course. Still relatively new to the race are men trikers. From 1955 to 1982, the Mini 500 was an all-women's event, intended to complement the all-male Little 500. But this year, nearly half of the teams were co-ed. And on the pole was the all-male team, going with the unusual name, Crone Basement Freaks of Nature. They, along with 2 others, made it all the way to the final heat. Crossing the finish line first with a time of 39.55 seconds were the Freaks of Nature, followed by the co-ed team of Who Knows and the Kappa Alpha Thetas.
When you crossed the finish line, I heard some boos there now. What do you think of that?
Sororities. Well, the Greek system I don't think appreciates guys riders in the race, but look, the girls still hold the record for the race, an all-girls team. So, you know, if they were here today, we would have finished 2nd.
So, for the 2nd year in a row, an all-men's team wins the Mini 500. I'm Chris Baggett. Now back to the action of the Little 500.
What would a Little 500 be without a little controversy in it, Max?
Well, it is. The last 2 years, the boys' teams have won, and I'm sure that the people who put that together are starting to wonder just how to handle that from now on. Of course, we had an interesting thing this year in that there was a women's team tried to qualify for the Little 500 here, but couldn't quite get up to speed.
The Kappa Alpha Theta sorority put together 4 women who attempted to qualify, and I think their time was 35th or 36th fastest among those who did qualify. So they were not successful in making the race this year. They may come back. There are also some plans afoot, and it's merely in the discussion stage at this point, of adding a women's bicycling event to this race specifically for the purpose of having women in a bicycling event, because more and more women, of course, are taking up the bicycling sport.
Well, they're taking up all forms of athletics and other things similar to that. And of course, when this thing was developed many years ago, no one really thought about those kind of things.
Take a look at the official standings now, Max. At lap 150, at that point in the race, 3/4 of the race complete. Team number 7 in the lead.
Certainly was, running 24 miles, 0.69 miles per hour, and but they had just a fraction of a lead as these other teams were right with them.
Phi Gamma Delta in first. In second, team number 15, Phi Delta Theta. Team number 17, Americana, in 3rd place. 4th place, team number 25, that was Sigma Nu. Team number 19, Acacia, which has been among the leaders all day. Team number 20, Sigma Alpha Mu. Team number 1, Sigma Alpha Epsilon. Team number 21, that is Cinzano. Team number 12, Sigma Phi Epsilon. And team number 30, which is doing a great job in this race today. Kai-Fi coming from way back in the pack to keep themselves up front and in the lead.
Right now you see a picture of the Phi Gams breaking away, but I think it's only for the purpose of an exchange, which it is. They swing out to the outside now, and the pack then falling in behind them. With the Phi Delta Theta, the team in purple, leading as they go down the back side back there. You see several exchanges now as the bicycles come right at you, and you can see what happens over there.
The exchange, a very, very crucial part, and so far we've not seen too many muffed exchanges among the leaders, and that is what has kept, at least as we count it, 14, 15 teams on the lead lap. It's been a very safe race. There have been no yellow flags and no penalties as well.
That's good. We always want to run a race without penalties if at all possible. Occasionally one will be called. But right now it would appear to me, Doug, with a little less than 50 laps to go, it's just going to be a matter of who has the best dash man at the end.
Well, we saw it last year, of course, when the strategy for Alpha Epsilon Phi backfired on them because of the bad exchange. They broke out on lap 194, dropped the exchange, and that cost them the race quite possibly in a trophy dash with the Cutters on the final lap. So we are anticipating that once again we are going to see last 10 laps of racing that will just astonish you. Team number 4, Delta Taut Delta, really breaking out in front. But Max, if my lap counters are correct over there, they are one lap down. They've completed 158. Everyone else has completed 159. They're making an exchange at this point.
When you see them break away that way, you want to look over to their pits each time to see if it's really a breakaway, if it's just a matter of building up a little bit of a lead so that when they make the exchange and get their speed back up with the next rider, they can fall into place, and that was the occasion right there.
160 laps will be complete when they cross the start-finish line. Let's take a look and get the number. That's team number 12. Sigma Phi Epsilon leads them across. Team number 4, Delta Taut Delta, who's a lap down, but then Acacia, who's been up front among the leaders. Team number 19 in the gold and blue jerseys coming around with them as well. A great day of action. Max, there's something else we ought to mention today. We thought we'd get a record today, but we didn't. The official attendance has been turned in to us today, 29,842. That is the second largest crowd on record, last year being the record.
Well, it's really a tribute to the fans who have come out, and I think they've enjoyed themselves, and they've got a real treat yet to come as we head toward the final laps of this race.
I think they're really going to see some excitement. 161 laps complete now, and you can also feel among this crowd the excitement starting to build toward the end of the race. People standing on their feet over much of the seating area here today. Beautiful sunshiny afternoon in Bloomington, Indiana. We are graced with good weather once again this year.
We're seeing exchange there in the pink, the Evans Scholars, who were in the earlier wreck, and I think have been riding with only 3 riders. That's team number 11 going by. I've been riding with 3 riders. I think we've had one person that perhaps was injured enough that he has not been able to continue in this race.
That, of course, is a load that is terribly hard to bear if you have to go the entire distance, 200 laps, with only 3 riders. Now, the Cutters did that last year, of course. An outstanding effort on their part to finish just a width of a tire ahead of Alpha Epsilon Phi. I want to mention quickly one other thing, Max. There are 3 teams that were not allowed to compete in this year's race. Alpha Epsilon Pi was one of them, along with Beta Theta Pi and Sigma Chi, for violations that occurred not involving the Little 500, but fraternity violations, and that was the penalty imposed. So there are 3 teams that were not permitted to compete this year.
Now we have the Cutters moving out again, building up a little bit of a lead, but as I look on the far side, they do have a rider ready, and now you see him moving to the outside of the track where he will make the exchange, and there you see 3 teams now about to make an exchange all at the same time.
That's where communication becomes very important. Who's going to go where? Inside, outside, or what?
Cutters make a good exchange and move right out toward the head of the pack, so they didn't lose anything at all on that exchange.
Very much a key to a successful race effort. As we mentioned, the race 200 laps, that translates, for those of you who keep figures on such things at this stadium, to 50.98 miles. 50.98 miles. The distance for 200 laps, as measured 3 feet from the out from the absolute inside edge of the track, which is a cinder track, very hard packed. The grounds crew done an excellent job keeping this track in shape. We've not had a problem with it today in spite of the sunshine and the wind that has been blowing across it. All right, Max, Rich Green caught up with somebody down in the infield. I know you have followed his career as long as he's been here, and so have millions of Hoosiers as well. And everybody associated with this university thinks the world of the guy. Rich Green on the infield with Steve Alford. Rich?
University students here to see the Little 500 today, including Steve Alford. Steve, what do you think of the race so far?
It's exciting. This has been my first one. The last 3 years I've been out of town, so it was nice to be in town to see one.
Did you ever consider riding in Little 500?
No, not at all.
Bicycling isn't your sport.
No, I play basketball, and these guys bicycle. This is a lot more challenging than what I thought. These guys have to really be in good condition and shape and really test your stamina out here.
Thank you very much for talking with us. Steve Alford.
168 complete. The pace continues to quicken. We build toward the finish of this race. We are going to bring that to you in just a moment when the Indiana University Little 500 continues. As we cross the start-finish line now, you see team number 3, that's the Posers, lead them across. Team number 11 in the pink right behind them.
They're a lap down.
Which is a lap down. Evan Scholars, that's right, Max. We're in the last 5 laps of the race. The pace is picking up.
Team 17, I think, Americana still in there battling. It looks as if they're moving out to the lead right now.
It is still very much anybody's race. And
but they are making an exchange. Excuse me, Doug. You see there on the screen, they're making an exchange.
On the backstretch, putting the final riders on. This has become, as we saw last year and the year before. It's a trophy dash. The pace picks up.
Here comes the pack now. These are the leaders right here.
Team number 4, Delta Tau Delta, leads them across.
4, 2, 5, 15, 19.
Team number 5, the Cutters. Let's watch if they're just going on a burn or if they're going to exchange. Nobody's out there for them. They're going, Max.
Acacia's trying to catch them now. They're in second spot, as you see. You see the Cutters out in the lead now. The Acacia's probably 30 yards behind them.
Well, John Husing is on the bike if everything went according to plan for the Acacias, trying to make the last final sprint. That's 197 complete as we cross. Cutters first, Acacia second, Team 21 is third.
It's interesting to know who might be on that Cutters bike. They have some very talented people.
I'm willing to bet it's either Vince Hazer or Miles Palsgrove, and if I had to bet between the two, I'd say Vince Hazer.
Probably so. He's the one who was injured last year and did not run. He continues to lead as we are now ready to come up on 198, and it looks as if right now they might be strong enough to hold that off.
He's got maybe a 30 or 40-yard lead on the rest of the pack. Acacia falling back a little bit. Team number 12, Sigma Phi Epsilon, taking over second place.
I think the Cutters, unless they have some misfortune and they have a wide open track ahead of them.
Well, they're doing an exchange, Max. Watch them on the far side. Here it is. We saw this backfire a year ago. This is a good one, though, but the pack is catching it.
They're coming around on lap 199. It's going to be a tight one. They have caught them.
Oh, it's a trophy dash again. Acacia back up in there. Sigma Phi Epsilon right up in there.
The Cutters have the fresh rider, however.
We'll get the white flag as we come around.
Here we go.
1 lap to go, and it's a trophy dash, a quarter mile to the finish. Team number 5, the Cutters, leads them across.
Phi Delta Theta in there, team 15. Phi Gamma Delta is in there on the inside. That's the blue team.
Let's hope everybody stays in good shape. A very tight, very fast pack. It's a trophy dash to the finish. We enter turn number 3, the Cutters with a slight edge.
And they're good position on the track, too, as they come around 3.
Phi Gamma Delta, though, taking the lead, Max. The Cutters go wide. Team number 7, Phi Gamma Delta.
And it's going to be the Acacias, maybe.
They got it. Phi Gamma Delta first, Acacia second, and Sigma Phi Epsilon is third.
That's right. 1, 2, 3. So the Phi Gams win it for the 5th time. Team number 7. They won in 56. They won in 65, 67, 75. It's their 28th finish in the top 10. Last year, they wrecked on the last lap and failed to win. They returned 3 riders this year, and they won it.
Team number 7, Phi Gamma Delta, bringing it across. The clock on the stadium scoreboard kept running, so I do not have an official time for you at this point. But according to what we saw, team number 19, Acacia, finished second, and team number 12, Sigma Phi Epsilon, finished third. Not a record pace looking from the clock. Last year we set a record of 2:01:44. This year a little bit slower than that. I think the wind probably played a factor in that over the course of the race.
Well, a look now on a rerun of the Cutters, who I thought were in a great position, and we're going to take this with a fresh rider they had just put on. But Doug, as they came around that curve, for some reason they swerved out a little bit, and it let the Figam slip through there.
They sure did. They had inside position. The Cutter rider went wide on the track. Acacia right there on his tail.
Got a really close between second and third if we follow that along.
But that's the way they come across and the way they look to us as the finish occurred. You will see, hold it just a second longer, the SIGEP rider come into your picture right there, just that much behind.
That's been the biggest winning margin in quite some races we've had here. That's a good 2 bicycle lengths, which is a lot on this track.
Sure has. Max, another great race today. An absolutely outstanding little 500. No penalties, no yellow lights, and a new winner this year for the first time in several years. But again, a team that's been to the finish line a number of times. All right, Rich Green down on the infield. Let's go to him with the winning team.
Let's meet the riders. I'm Tom Herendine from Fort Wayne.
Okay.
Jim Strobel, Shelbyville.
Okay.
Mark Sinise, Louisville. Mike Franklin, Indianapolis.
Right here.
Dave Schmidt from Carmel.
Congratulations, fellas. The 5th victory for Phi Gamma Delta in Little 500 history. Back upstairs now to Doug and Max.
All right, thank you very much, Rich Green. Max, the final numbers.
Final numbers, Phi Gamma Delta, their 5th win. It took 2 hours, 3 minutes, and 57 seconds. That's the 3rd fastest little 5. The time of speed, 24.66 miles per hour.
Phi Gamma Delta first, followed by Acacia, Sigma Phi Epsilon, Cutters, Cinzano Theta Chi, Sigma Alpha Mu, Phi Delta Theta, Chi Phi, and Sigma Alpha Epsilon, your top 10 teams in this year's Little 500. That does it from here. For Max Skirvin and Rich Green, I'm Doug Rafferty. Thanks to all those who helped us out today. We hope to see you again back here at Indiana University next year for the Little 500. So long, everybody.
The 1987 Little 500, the world's greatest college weekend, has been brought to you by Bank One, where you can get it all and still deduct interest with equity money.